everybody, here we are again. My name's Colwin Way and this is my workshop. Today we are going to do a couple of small projects, so just something for the weekend really. A little seashell, which is one of my beginner projects when we've got courses running and we have beginners coming on a course for the first time. This is a little bit of fun to be able to use the beading and parting tool, skewches, all those sorts of things. So it's something that can be made fairly quickly. The second project for today is going to be a little sash pull or light pull, and you'll be quite familiar with those. We're going to use a little light pull drive for that. Now, this was the video that we were going to do about 3 weeks ago where everything went wrong. So this is our second chance of it. And we've done a lot of basic beginner projects in our series. So we're going to start in the lead up to Christmas. We're going to start sort of upping it a little bit, give you some more adventurous projects and look at some of those bits of kit that are a little bit trickier to understand initially, like bowl coring and all that sort of stuff. So we want to just up the ante a little bit for you. Now, one of the questions on the Q&A last Tuesday was about making an inset clock. Now, that's going to be an actual project for one of our live vids as well. So that's going to be later on, next maybe week or two's time we're going to do that. We'll do 2 clocks for you then. So let's start. So we got a lovely piece of ash here. Oh, by the way, another cameraman behind the camera today. This is Richard. He's actually our videographer. So we had Steph, the camera lady, on Tuesday. Now we've got Richard, the videographer, today. So he's going to be working the camera for us, asking your questions. So you'll hear exactly what he sounds like in a moment. So we'll crack straight into this one. So what I've got here is a piece of ash, lovely bit of olive ash. We're going to get in a minute, we're going to get the camera on top so you can see what's happening. But holding this piece of timber, we've got 2 identical matched ring centers. So basically, one's a drive without a bearing, and one's a drive just carries the load for us. So what this means, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute, if you're nervous with a skew or beading and parting tool and you get a catch, the timber will stop rotating, but the live dren, the ring center can carry on moving. So it's quite a nice initial one. It also gives you a bit of an understanding as to how much pressure you can apply to the center as well. So that's a ring center. Okay, Rich, if you want to come on over, let's get right up on top of this one. These are nice small projects, so we can get you in nice and close. You've got to get it close enough to see what's happening, but not so close that you can't read what's going on. Ask your questions, guys. You know what the form is. So we're going to start with a roughing gouge. Quite a big tool, but I'm going to show you what happens when you press too hard with this one. So initially, we're going to get this piece stopping quite regularly. So I'm going to go quite quick. We are about 1800 revs on this one. And we'll take you right the way through. This is a little seashell. So I'm living down here in the southwest of England on the coast. So this is one of our little seashells that you can pick up on the beach quite easily. And it's a series of ever decreasing bead sizes, basically. So it's a nice practice piece. So in stages, let's go up to 1800 first and rough this piece down. There we are. So I've got one of the new robust tool rests on the lathe at the moment, which is a really nice little tool rest. This particular one, it's got a nice hardened steel pin running along the top. That means I can get my chisels really right up close to it, and that's half the reason Rich has been here today. We've been shooting a video to promote these robust tool rests. So here we go, tool handle down low, and then lift the handle until you get the shavings. Then you can run along. And as you get more and more confident, you can speed up. Let me just show you what happens though if you press too hard or you get a catch. Everything stops. The lathe's still running, but I'm nice and safe because that stopped for me. If that does happen, you just need to tweak the tailstock and you're away again. Checking for rounds. So I'm just slowing up a little bit now, just getting a slightly better finish off the tool. And we'll stop and check that one. We're getting a little bit closer now. I'm going to bring the light down. Rich, tell me if that's too bright for the...
That's fine.
Is that okay? So I'm just going to clean up this side basically from about there to this side here, because this is going to be the top, the fattest area of our seashell. So I'm going to use the skew chisel. Okay, I'm going to run along, bevel rubbing first, lift the handle, and then you can run along, taking that lovely little slice. Do another one of those. So there we are. You imagine a person coming on a course never used a roughing gouge, a skew chisel. This is a nice little introduction to all of the tools. So that's roughed out, we don't need to worry about that. This is the first area of contact for us, the first shaping area. So I'm going to bring the tool rest over there, drop the tool rest down, and we're going to have our first bead. The high spot is going to be about there. Now just for practice, let's use our small bowl gouge to do that first bead, or to do the first curve in that bead. So I'm going to rub my bevel, flute facing about 10 o'clock, and I'm just going to bring the handle round to me until I get the contact area of the cutting edge area biting. Then push forward at the length of the tool, bring the handle round, and I'm using my forward hand as a brake. I'll do that again, rub the bevel. We're just going to keep that coming around. I want a little bit of waste near the centre. There we are. So we've got a little bit of waste there. Your alternatives to doing what I've just done would be beading and parting tools, skew chisels, spindle gouge. You've got lots of alternatives, but this is just a way of using lots of different tools. So you've got a nice little curve there. We're now going to taper this down again, and this is the reason I never cleaned this up with a skew, because we're now going to rough it down with a roughing gouge again. And we're going to make like a cone shape. There we are. You can see the benefit of this this nice little tool rest, this robust tool rest. Lily, sorry, I'm springing this one on you. Could you get up the robust tool rest, please? On
someone's just put Axminster put a link on. So,
oh, fantastic! Yeah. Excellent. So you'll see that the straight ones are available in 4 sizes, and there's 2 curved bowl rests as well. The video will be up soon, guys. So keep watching for that video. Now we're going to use the bowl gouge again. Oh, that one's way too big. Going to use that same bowl gouge, that 1/4 inch, and I'm just going to run a nice smooth bevel rub all the way down through. I'm going to do one more of those. I wanted to get a little bit deeper when I get to that end. There we are, and we're going to stop. We need a little bit of waste material at the end there. Okay, so now we can start rolling our beads. I'm going to use 2 sizes of beading and parting tool. And if you're new to rolling beads, so new to wood turning, then it might be a good idea to start with these 2 types of tools rather than the skew, which terrifies everybody. There they are, so 1/4 inch or 6mm, and a 10mm or 3/8. So big tool for big beads, small for small beads. What we'll do to start with is just mark where...
Someone's asked, Charles has asked, Colwin, how do I find the letter that corresponds to... It's just gone off the screen. Oh, corresponds to the jaws that I have. I cannot find it on the jaws or on the Axminster site.
Right.
Using the code of the individual jaws.
Using the code of the... They should be in the description there. I'll have to double check that. Lily, can you make a note of that question so I can check and get back to Charles, please? Because that's quite important for us, especially if you're using something like a speed sizer. You need to know the the letter. I will definitely have a look. I'll get you the answer by tomorrow. And we'll post it for everyone. So I'm going to use the skew chisel long point just to make a little V cut. There we are, and we're going to roll in the first bead, which is this big one here. So beading and parting tool, corner in use, starting flat, tilt in, and going to roll it around that curve. No big cuts required, nice and gentle. There we are, into the bottom of the V. So this is our next bead here. So at the moment that's a high spot. We don't want that as a high spot. The high spot's about there. So I'm going to go straight in. There's my new high spot. Then roll that bead over. There. We are going to crisp the bottom of these up in a moment, but we need to do another V cut. So coming down a little bit with the tool rest. I know always, certainly on my drawers that I have here, they always used to have the letter on them, Chris. So for instance now, I don't know whether you'll make this out, Rich, can you see H?
Yeah, yeah.
Can the camera pick that up?
Just kind of tilt it. Yeah, I can see that.
So that's where mine is on here, unless they've changed. And like I said, I will start looking, I'll find out for you. Should be on there somewhere. Maybe not on all the jaws. That's the other thing, Charles. It might be on just one of the jaws. But I'll look. There we are. We're just rolling that second bead in. Then we're going to flatten off and roll in. And what you'll find is, as you get to the smaller beads, they get easier and easier and easier because there's less pressure on you. You see. So another V cut. Another rotation with the beading and parting tool. And then we'll mark all the others now. So let's go 1, 2, and then 1 at the end. So we're going to go down to the small beading and parting tool next. Another great way of using up all the scrap ends in the workshop. Got the tool rest again.
Gerald has asked, Colwin, is there a secret potion to keep the tool rest running smoothly? Having tried machine wax and camellia oil, basic wax and buffing on my wheel, nothing keeps the resin from various woods. It only takes 15 to 30 minutes before it builds up again. Help, please.
Yeah, certainly some tool rests do that. This is my old tool rest here. Lovely tool rest because of that. You've got places to put your fingers. But unlike this one, you've got quite a wide surface area here, and you can already see that bits of resin there building up. Certain timbers are worse than others, and strangely I found the winter worse. So that must be the moisture in the air helps it to stick. I don't know, but what I tend to do every now and again, I'll give that a sand with some sandpaper just by hand, maybe 150 grit, maybe not even that coarse, but just to get rid of that. I find it more when I'm production turning than when I'm doing one-offs. Maybe it's the repetition, I'm not quite sure. But that's all I do. Make a little bit of camellia oil every now and again. Lily, could you pop camellia oil up there? Rich, can you just pass that bottle down over there? I've showed you these guys before. There's camellia oil, and I use that all the time on the bed of the lathe, on the tool rest, anything that's metal basically. It works really well. Part number for that one is 510018. Camellia oil. But yeah, resin build-up, that's always a problem. Like I say, I find it more so when I'm production turning than anything. let's just stop the lathe and have a look. So you can see the sort of finish that we want. We're now going to sand it. I'm going to go through the 100, 150, 240, 400 abrasive, and then we'll put some finish on it, and then we're going to cut an angle on it. We're going to finish the whole thing off before we go on to our next project. So dust extraction on. So like I said, the grit size is going to be 100, 150, 240, 400 and 600, and then we'll use one of the Chestnut friction polishes. Be a little bit careful when you're sanding, because it's quite easy if you lazy sand, you'll flatten the tops of all your beads. So make sure you mould your abrasive to suit the shapes that you've made. Well, I've had a question from Quentin as well regarding the future project, or the Nutcracker project that we're going to do a little bit closer to Christmas. I will send you some dimensions before Quentin, so I'll get to that tomorrow. We'll put some dimensions out before we do that project, just so people can create their cutting list. There we are, that's 100, so then we can speed through them a bit more, so 150.
Wayne's asked, Colwin, which carnauba wax do you use?
By the way, well, I'll be honest, I use any I can get. I've got, turn that off. There's the wax tray. So what I've got some Liberon, I've got some Chestnut down here. I've got some pure, so I bought a whole lump of the stuff in France when I was there last. That's pure carnauba, that one. The Liberon one tends to be just softened a little bit with beeswax, and the Chestnut one here is similar. They all work brilliantly. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I suppose if you wanted, if you're putting it directly onto workpiece, so onto a bowl or onto a project, go with the one that's softened with beeswax, so either the Chestnut or the Liberon one. They would also work well on buffing system. I tend to use the pure on my buffing wheels though. This one just, I think it's a little bit brighter, you know. But if you're going to put it direct, you really need to use something that's softened a little bit. So yes, those are my preference.
And also, Callum has asked, how many coats of finish oil would you recommend for walnut?
Oh, hi Callum. So the simple rule is, so the first one is your sealing coat. That needs a good 24 hours to dry. Then it's very lightly denib, sand back. Go with your next coat, 24 hours, but very, very light. Now from then on, you need to check the surface, see how it's acting. If it's what they call pump heat, so really soft, it'll probably need a few more. Also, you know, how do you want it to look when it's done? Do you want it a gloss finish? Do you want a satin finish? Basically, the more coats of oil you put on, the glossier it's going to get. As long as you do nice light coats and allow them to dry fully. So that'll be down to you, that one. So this is 400 grit, we're going to move to 600.
Callum says glossy.
Glossy, yeah. So you keep putting them coats on. Make sure they dry fully in between. And it's a little bit like applying French polish. The more you put on, the better it's going to get. Let's stop and have a look before we put our friction polish on. There we are, nice bit of olive ash. So you've got these real dark markings running through it. Okay, so we're going to use the Chestnut friction polish. Now I know this is on offer at the moment, so it's a great time to go and buy some friction polish. So let's pop a bit of this on. So this has carnauba wax in it. It's part of the makeup. It's a variation on French polish, from my understanding. Anyway, it's lovely to use. Very nostalgic smell to me. It's what I used to use an awful lot as an apprentice turner. I'm going to put this on without the lathe running and without a sealer. It's going to seal itself.
Got James asking what's the difference between the two grinder wheels.
The two
grinder wheels. I think that might have been from an earlier question. That's right at the start.
Just pop your... Is it John? Did you say Joe?
James.
James. Just pop that question again, James.
Oh, here you go. I'm looking for a bench grinder on a budget. What would you recommend? That's the original question. So.
Right, okay. I mean, bench grinders, I mean, we go to the craft range and we do, it's around about the £50 mark. It's got a double wheel or a wide wheel on one side and a 1-inch wheel on the other. It'll have aluminium oxide, which is white on one side, and the carborundum on the other side. Aluminium oxide, absolutely fine. That'll be your finer side for sharpening, and then the grey carborundum for your roughing out. That would be my recommendation if you're on a budget. Absolutely. Nice little grinder, that one. Now we're going to buff it up. So the wet piece first.
Someone's saying the sound's gone, but I don't know if it is or not.
Okay. If the sound is gone, say something. We can only keep going. See if anybody else comments. So we're going to buff this up now, get this nice and shiny.
Yeah, someone's saying we can hear us. So
all good. So someone's into it.
So Callum, do you have a 12-meter carbide bit that would fit Simon Hope hollower? As I find Axminster bits a lot sharper. Don't know what that means.
I think we do. So there we are. Look, my Simon Hope hollower here and my Axminster hollower. They do appear to be the same. Okay, and they're certainly. What's that one? There we are. So I would venture that one again. Was that Callum? Lily, just keep a note of that question. I'll find out after the video and I'll let Callum know. Okay, so that's done. What we're going to do now, take it out of the lathe. We're going to cut it, we're going to sand it, and then we'll do our light pull. Okay, so I'm just going to cut it on the table here, and I'm going to use just an improvised block. I'm a little bit twitchy about using, well, I'm not a little bit twitchy, I'm extremely twitchy about using a powered saw to do this, because I think you can see why. Round things on things like bandsaws are a big no-no. You have your fingers off straight away. So we're going to cut through. And even if you don't have to cut through, you can use your sander and sand straight away. I'll show you. You've seen me use this endless amounts of times. Seashells. But yeah, let's just do it to save us some time. Seashells. With my sanding disc, with the extraction, we'll sand a flat on there. So extraction on, guys. Not too fast, we don't want to burn the timber. And I'm going to make it tilt. Hold on to it. Where I'm going with this, I'm going to sand away the little hold point there. There we are, about there. That's going to stand up at an angle. I'll show you properly in a moment. We're going to now just sand off this top area. Okay, there we are. Right, before I put any finish on that, let's just take my 240 grit abrasive. Get rid of those horrible sandy marks, those deep sandy marks. There we are, a little bit more polish. A little bit more polish just on the end. Then you can use your buffing mops or your smop. Remember, it's friction polish. And you've got your little seashell. Nice little box or bowl of, several different timbers. And if you're going to put them in a bowl, if they're not to stand on the counter, what you can do, instead of flattening this off, make it into a tail. So make it into a longer tail. And that'll be nice. This line in a bowl. Okay. So we're going to put that up on the top of the lathe. We're just going to now get ready and turn our light pull.
Callum's asked, have you turned something in your younger days and then chucked it back on the lathe and redone it as you got better?
Very rarely. Very rarely. You do improve, obviously you improve as you get used to the lathe, you get used to turning, you get used to using certain tools. Skewers will bring springs to mind, that sort of thing. You do, but by that time things have long gone most of the time anyway. We've done an instance near, or quite 2 or 3 months ago now here, where I turned the matching pair, or the matching pair of a table lamp that I turned at school. My first ever turned project that my mum and dad still had. So I turned a matching version of it. And that was quite fun. By laminating lots of timbers together. I really enjoyed that one because it was something that I had turned right at the beginning of my turning life, my turning journey, as they say. So we'll use the same, we use the same centres on this one. So ring centre to start with. We are going to use a friction drive in the way of a light pull drive in a second. But now I've got a slightly smaller piece of timber. This is going to be for a sash pull. Or you think about bathroom cord pull, that sort of thing. You can't have switches, so little cord pull. I'll give dimensions of this piece actually. So this piece is not particular sizes, you make them whatever you want, but this is 80 mil, so just over about 3 1/8, and then thickness, so it's about 40 millimeters, so just over the 1.5 inches. And I'm just going to start by roughing down to round. You could grip the square if you wanted to. If you were going to do bundles of the things, then probably that's the way I would go. But let's do it by the book. Let's go turn it down to round, hold it in a chuck, then drill. And remember, we're always going to drill before you turn. If you do it the other way round, your hole will never be in the middle. We've always got to turn around that hole, that centre point.
Got Andy saying, hi Colwin, is your extractor an AT60E or an AT170E?
It's a 60E, Andy. A 60 at the moment, and it's an ongoing saga with my dust extraction. I've got a bigger extractor going in, which is actually hiding behind the curtain at the moment. But there's obviously been a few limitations to being able to get people around. But that is now on the card. So just because I want to run, so my 60E, lovely, working my machine here fantastically. If I want to cut anything on the bounce or use my planer thicknesser, I have to take the extractor to it. I want to have a plumbed in system where I can vent off from and go to every machine, so I need a bigger extractor just to let me do that, that's all. Right, so we're going to rough down to a near cylinder. I don't need to go all the way. There we are. I'm just going to tidy up that one end, and you can do that with a parting tool. This is a wonderful piece of yew. So the first piece of timber we turned was a piece of ash. We now got a lovely piece of yew. There's a lot going on in this piece of yew. So it's you can see from the end grain here, it's got some lovely oranges. Then you've got sort of like a browny area. Then you've got the true sap on the outside. So there's a lot happening. It's a nice bit of timber. So now we're going to put a chuck on, and in this chuck we're going to use O'Donnell 112, so the 1.5" O'Donnell jaws, only because that's the right size for this particular project. If you've got something else that will also grip it, fantastic. You have to use those if you don't want to. I've already aligned my headstock and tailstock, so I know that they are up together. There we are. Can go in there, really nice and secure. I'm not worried that it's not at the optimum size because it's a small bit of timber and I'm only drilling. So first of all, I need to put in a hole that will take the knot. For that, I'm going to use a 10mm brad point or lip and spur bit. And you know those types. They've got a point in the middle and then two cutting knives on the outer edge. Little drill chuck in the end, and we need to go down to a depth of about, I don't know, 12mm, ½ inch-ish. And the only reason we need to do that is really because it needs to hide the knot that you're going to tie in the cord when you tie it. So there we are. Lathe speed about 1,000 revs. So you can see how far I went there. I went up to that mark. So it's about, like I say, about 12, about ½ inch. So now we can swap drill bit, and we're going to use a long series. This is quite a short light pull, but you can get really long ones, and for that you do need long series drill bits. This one is 4mm, which tends to be good enough for most cord. Always do the large hole first. If you do the small one first, that spur, that very point in the middle, has got no location, and it'll wiggle around in that smaller hole. So it's quite important you do it that way around.
Jim says, why do you always hold the chuck when drilling?
Extra security, so I can feel if it's starting to move or slip. And if, say for instance, I grab the tailstock and pull back like that, I'm not in any danger of leaving the chuck in the workpiece and then it potentially flying and hitting me. So it's a security thing really. So just keeping that swarf clear. What you don't want to do is end up binding up. So bits like this, if they clog up and stay in there for too long, they'll end up catching fire. And obviously we don't want that. We've got a lot of tinder underneath the lathe. There we are, we're well through there. So if you're going to do a batch, we would do all of that batch up to this point. That's not too bad. That's stayed pretty well on center as well. Okay, so you got 2 holes in the knot end, 1 hole at the single end running all the way through. So now we're going to go back to between centers. This is where we're now going to use the light pull drive, and I'll show you the light pull drive.
Sean says, any reason for drilling the larger diameter hole first?
Yeah, so for that reason. So if you think about, if I wanted, so let's say we've drilled that hole first, which is from the main one. Now I go to use the lip or the brad point bit. As I start to drill that, the point is going to flap around in that hole. If you imagine trying to use a Forstner bit now and there, it's going to be all over the place. So that one first, that then makes a little divot that can pick up into. So it's just to help keep everything accurate and in line with each other. That's the only reason. So let's get our centers on. So we're going to use single pointed tailstock center. So the standard, what I would call standard 90-degree center. And in the drive end, the headstock end, we're going to use what we call a light pull drive. Light pull drive because it has a series of different diameters that locate into any of those holes you've drilled. So we're going to put the larger and the knot end in there now. So that is there, single point there. So whatever size you've drilled there, one of those will locate into it. And obviously single pointed center into a single hole. So now whatever happens, this is going to be all over the place, but we know that the hole is central. So we're going to give it a nice gentle rough down again. And then we can start our shape. So I'm at 1800 revs there. I'm going to go with a roughing gouge to begin with. And don't worry, again, like the ring sensors we used on the Seashell earlier, if you have a catch, everything will stop. This will continue running because it's a friction drive. So down to full round. There we are, we'll clean that up with a skew. So tool rest a bit higher for the skew, and whilst we're there, we're getting a bit closer. This is the fat end again. There we are. Now we're going to use a parting tool. We're going to have 2 beads on this. So if I go, let's go with a 6mm beading and parting. We're going to have a second bead. Don't forget you have got a larger hole down that side. So the first bead, I suppose, high spot's going to be there. So you've got a choice. Hole, spindle gouge, beading and parting tool, skew chisel. This is your beading and parting tool. Remember, you want to rotate over using the corner, So I'm going to go to the skew. Let's go to a smaller skew. I need to get really tight in there for that other bead, and I'm just going to make a V cut. And because I don't have much room to play with, I can't even get that small skew in there. I'm going to go in with a parting tool again and just take that corner over and also clean up the bottom edge. Really tight. There we are. Well, that's that bottom bit. So now we can take away some waste. So I'm going to go with a bowl gouge, lowering the tool rest. Around about there. You do have to, you'll find yourself moving the tool rest around all over the place just to suit different tools. And very often the skew chisel, you're going to have that high. Where the bowl gouge, scrapers, spindle gouges, roughing gouges are all low. Well, that'll do. A little bit smaller at the top here. And I want a nice little taper at the top to the top hole. We're just using the tip of the skew and slicing those end grain fibres. And then handle down. Spindle gouge or bowl gouge next. But small, if you, whichever one you're going to use a small version of itself. So there is a 4mm hole running through the middle, so I can't go too small here. I think we're about there. Make sure the curve's okay and we can start sanding that then. Lovely grain on this particular piece. Okay, so let's have the extraction running. We'll sand, I'm not going to go to 100, we're going to start at 150. Now straight on to the 240. The last one here, 600 grit. that before we put a polish on. Yeah, lovely bit of timber there. And right, bit of polish. So friction polish.
So you got Keith asking, hi Colin, do you find that you heat checks very easily?
Yes, it does, Keith. Especially in those larger pieces. So if you're doing a bowl, for instance, the end grain, if you get it too warm, and it doesn't have to be hot, it doesn't even have to be uncomfortable for your fingers. But yeah, you've got to be so careful when you're sanding it. Otherwise you get those tiny little cracks, they just appear. So if you're making things like wooden fruit, be really careful when you're sanding it if you're using yew. And same with bowls, that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's and this is pretty much the same with most exotics as well. You get the same sort of issues.
And we got Des asking, what is the make of your sandpaper?
So it's the RB paper, what they call the ultimate abrasive. That's in the Axminster catalogue and on the website. It's RB, made by Hermes, and it's something that I've been using for years and years. There we are, isn't that pretty? Pretty bit of wood. Let's just free it from its centres. Get rid of the tools. There we are, so you have your sash pull. So your knot gets tied and hidden in the larger hole, and obviously the main core threaded up through the centre. Okay, so a couple of little weekend projects for you there, guys. You want to make a bowl of shells, then use up all your scrap pieces, or if you're into craft shows and selling stuff at craft fairs, light pulls are bread and butter. Light pulls, bottle stoppers, all those sorts of things. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed that. There's a couple of nice simple projects for you to tackle. Like I say, we're going to start escalating the difficulty level for you as we go through the next few months, and a few tool-free parters as well as looking at some products. So guys, have a fantastic weekend. Have we got a question? One more question before we go?
Yeah, we got Len asks, what is the number for the 600 grit paper you sometimes use?
600 grit, Lily, 600 grit Hermes abrasive. I don't have the number here with me at the moment.
And there's another one, how about putting a bung in the knot end? Question mark.
Like a wooden bung or cork bung? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, why not? You could really make it your own and go really crazy with that different coloured timber or something maybe. But yes, Lily. So RB 600 Hermes 600 grit abrasive. It's the red one, if you can. But guys, thank you ever so much for watching. Have a fantastic weekend. We're going to cut it there. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you again next Tuesday. Happy turning. Bye bye.